Good morning, everybody. Right, my motto is that in order to understand the within and to heal, transform and alchemize the within, we need to understand the without, because the without is what's given rise to the within, and quite possibly the within has given rise to the without. So they're both equally important. So when the New Age people tell you that you shouldn't look at the darkness in the world and you shouldn't dig down the rabbit hole and observe and notice things and whatnot, that you need to discount all of that and just focus on the light, focus on the light, focus on the light, then basically we're dealing with a psyop. Because how can we understand our own insanity, our own lostness, our own dysfunction, our own narcissistic tendencies, our own whatever we need to understand about the great within? How can we understand any of that if we do not know what has given rise to it? We were born into this realm and it's gotten under our skin like a sickness, and it has distorted our psyche and has given rise to the fake self, which is being it's being, what's the word? God, it's early and my vocabulary is somewhere but not here. Dismantled. It's being dismantled, which causes cognitive dissonance, because what you thought yourself to be is not who you actually are. I mean, I was lying in bed last night and some things happened during the day that stressed me out a great deal, because it's yet again that sort of the system, how it likes to fuck us around, and it's very annoying. And I was lying in bed and my mind was going a million miles an hour, and it was like, but I was able to just choose again to step back from that, to realize that, hey, I don't have to play this game. I have a choice. I don't have to let this rule me. I don't have to let this dictate who I am. The system has done so much to us. This realm has done so much to us, and it all has to be dismantled from within, and this is a painstaking process. Now, today I just wanted to sort of talk a little bit about something I haven't really mentioned before, for various reasons. A, because I really don't know that much about it, apart from yet again my own experiences, but also because it often evokes ridicule and laughter. I don't know why it does that, actually, because it's blatantly obvious that something yet again is going on in there's something not right. Reptilians. When David Icke first came out with that, I mean, he was laughed all the way from here to the end of the world, and he was ridiculed. And I remember that Wogan interview he did, and even I thought later, many years later, before I'd woken up, thought he was but I then had a few very odd experiences of people with black eyes, and I'm not talking just the iris, but the entire eyeball was black, or the people with the pointy teeth. Oh yes. Now that reminded me of David Icke and what he said. I wasn't necessarily thinking that they were reptilian, but I had a feeling of something isn't right here, I've seen people on television, the Britain's Queen being one of them, and the eyes are just all black. But I've also seen ordinary people walking around the street whose eyes would go all black, just black. My osteopath, Kieran, who's absolutely wonderful, he's a really cool guy, and he's on the ball. He, when he went to osteopathic college, there was a fellow student who pretended to be this really nice, easygoing, friendly, helpful guy. But Kieran always had a bad feeling about him. just like something isn't right here, something is off. Everybody else loved him, thought he was like amazing, the sun shone out of his ass and whatnot, you know, but Kieran just had this feeling something isn't right. And then one day, when they were outside having a cigarette, he looked askance at the guy and saw that his eyes were all black. It lasted for a second, and his eyes were back to whatever colour they normally were, but it gave him the heebie-jeebies. Many years go by, I think it was like 10 years, and he found out that the guy was actually a serial rapist of women. So there you go, so he was right all along, and the guy had black eyes. Now, I'm not saying that people with black eyes are reptilians, however, there is a connection there, because it's a kind of shape-shifting thing, you see. And we see, I know on YouTube, and a lot of people say it's data mushing or whatever, but we see these weird clips on YouTube where if you look at a picture, everything in the picture is normal, bar the face, which is all weird and twisted and demonic looking. You see this with a lot of people, and then there was the whole Justin Bieber thing, where apparently he turned into a reptile in front of thousands of fans. I cannot corroborate that story personally, but it wouldn't surprise me. I've seen famous people with very strange, twisty faces, and everything around them remained perfectly in focus, but it was their face, and it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. I've seen people with slit pupils and pointy teeth. You know, possibly people with weird skin. And you could ask yourself, what is that about? And who are the reptilians? Who are they? Where did they come from? Are they jinn? Again, I think that we're dealing with multiple factions here. We have beings, creatures from different dimensions, from who knows where really, that are malevolent, profoundly malevolent. And there is in fact, there's a website called the Doe Network, DOE, the Doe Network. It's an American organization that specializes in finding missing people or identifying remains of human beings that were found. And years ago, I spent a lot of time researching that sort of thing because it felt pertinent, and it is. Basically because I was at that point of finding out what kind of world we are living in, and so that's all par for the course really. But you know, I found out in the course of those investigations that there are people out there who do unimaginable evil things to children or to women or to just other people in general, but they seem to especially predate the young, the innocent and the pure. And you know, time and time again, when you get these psychopaths and they're apprehended and they are in the court, there is footage, obviously, of them in court, as well as people that draw them, and strange things happen. Their faces contort, their eyes may go black, they show pointy teeth, there is weird shit going on there, you know, their skin goes weird. And so I think we're dealing with a type of entity. I think we might be dealing perhaps with some sort of possession that these reptilians have trouble incarnating as such into this realm. So they use the bodies of possibly NPCs, soulless people, because psychopaths are soulless, there's no doubt about that whatsoever. They are soulless. They have no conscience whatsoever. And so being empty vessels, as it were, which is why perhaps when they are it's like they do these things and then you get footage of them just sitting there like that, like as if they're literally, that something has switched them off, and then something switches them on and something has inhabited them, because evil issues forth from them. There's no doubt about that, and I've seen this. So I think it's a case of kind of like possession or something. Yeah. you can get people that, for example, are perfectly well behaved, and all of a sudden there was a case of perhaps, say, a woman. She ended up on antidepressants and ended up drowning her children, or school shootings, or all kinds of weird shit that goes on, which is why I'm wary of big pharma medications, because I think it can lead possibly to some sort of entity attachment at the very least, or possibly full-blown possession, because these things happen as well. And again, these people that commit these acts of atrocity are sat in courtrooms looking like that. There's a really good clip of Beyoncé and Jay-Z looking quite dowdy, dressed very dowdily, really odd, sitting next to each other like this. Like that. It goes on for about 5 minutes. It is odd, to say the least. And then the next thing you see, she's there on stage, and she looks pure evil. It's the same with, say, Katy Perry and beings like that, Justin Bieber. I don't think we're dealing with actual people, soul beings, obviously. I think we're dealing with something else, something that can be inhabited and used. And they love evil. They love all kinds of really disgusting, perverted, sick stuff. And this is part of the world that we live in. I'm probably not going to be doing loads of videos on this because I don't really see the point, but I think it is relevant because it is part of our so-called reality. And whatever is part of our reality has a bearing on our consciousness. It is a kind of give and take situation, because if consciousness creates reality, then we've got to ask what has brought that into being. Now, I'm a big believer in the power of love. Not love as in the Disney kind, not love as in, oh, we must be kind to everything and everybody without discernment, and we must accept everything without discernment. That isn't love, that is stupidity and moronic behavior. But love as in a force of great power that, well, that exists here and has so far existed here to stop everything from going completely mad, that is here within us, because we are here. Well, I've learned a lot. We are here to learn about what we are, who we are, and what we can do with who and what we are. It's like when you go to university or whatever, you know, you have these tests, you have to gain information, to gain knowledge. And you then have to prove that that knowledge has crystallized within you. The university is not really a very good example, because of course schools are very hijacked, and it's really all about learning shitloads of bullshit which you then regurgitate, so that's probably not a very good analogy. But we are here to gain information. We are here to learn how that has affected our consciousness. We are here to learn what consciousness really is and what it can do. We are here to learn about love and what the power of love can do. And I think that when we apply it, we see magic happening. You know, so we are so at the behest of the stress and the strain that is life. It's like yesterday was so stressful, and then when I finally got everything sorted that needed to be sorted, I felt better, and I thought, shit, that's it. That's this reality's idea of happiness, right? It's like, well, there were all these hurdles I had to hump through and over, and there was all this shit going on, and now I've got it sorted, so I feel better now, so that's happiness. Well, that isn't happiness at all. That's not happiness. But most people think it is. So when we are assaulted on a daily basis with all these problems and all these things that need our attention and that stress us out, and so forth and so on, it behoves us to see that we do not have to sail right into that and become that stress, become that outrage, become that powerless victimhood energy. We don't have to dwell there, be there perpetually. It isn't who we are. It isn't who we are. It's the part of us that thinks, well, I have to sort it out, and no, nothing ever works out, and it's because we're not, see, we hold on to that as if that is all true, and that is how we need to exist here. We have to sort it all out, we have to fix it. Whoa. So what happens when you don't do that anymore? And this doesn't happen overnight. This can only happen little by little, step by step, baby steps. Where you say, you know what? Okay, fuck it. I'm just going to let this go for a little while and see what happens. Or, okay, take a deep breath, get it sorted, let it go. It brings up all kinds of emotions. It brings up this mass consciousness state of being. And we are beyond that. We exist beyond that. And that is where we must continue to go. We must continue to go beyond it. Beyond the induced state of stress, which is mass consciousness. And that will require great focus. We have to be really aware on how it affects us. We do need to know what this world is. We need to know what happens in this world. There's no need for us to focus on it all the time. In fact, I would strongly recommend we don't do that at all. But we need to know in order to utilize it, in order to understand. I understand myself better now because of this, because of that, because of that. It gives us a better insight into our own inner world. And that is necessary for liberation. It is. We cannot blindside anything at all. We mustn't. We must look at it all, but we must not get trapped in it. You know? We must learn that we exist as our true self beyond that. That is the only way to be empowered. See, trauma and being stressed out is a kind of trauma, people, make no mistake. Trauma is a prison that we identify with on every imaginable level. This is who I am. I'm traumatized. I have complex PTSD, I'm a mess, this happened to me, that happened to me. All of that no doubt is true, yes. But what do you do with it? Are we just going to sit there and feel sorry for ourselves? Are we just going to sit there and say, this has happened to me and that's happened to me and I'm such a mess, forever and ever and ever? Is that it? Is that all there is? Because I'm telling you now that we won't get anywhere by doing that. We won't. And we will just perpetually stay stuck and thereby become generators of that very energy, you see. We become conduits of it. So, like I said, this is really treacherous terrain to navigate because it's so complex. All the shit is happening. It's had a massive effect on us. We become aware of that. Then we feel trapped and we feel like there's no way out of that. We feel trapped in the walls of the trauma prison. But we don't have to be. It is a choice. It is a process of disintegration of the false self, which hurts very much and causes cognitive dissonance. It is a choice to focus on disentanglement from that, to say, hey, that is not who I really am. This is not who I am. It's like the sort of concept of self-hate. I've become more aware of what that entails. I used to think that, oh, this is self-hate and I hate myself. But I realise now that it's a program. I don't hate myself at all. But it's drummed into us. You're so shit. You're so worthless. And we believe it. So we end up hating ourselves. It's kind of like that. It's all programming, people. It's not who we are. All these behavioral issues that we have are not who we are. But because we are living that, feeling that, acting that every day, we think it is. But it's being pushed into us, right? It's what the hijack is. But it's not who we are. It isn't. Once you realize that on a very deep level, that guilt and that shame that you feel starts to flow out. It starts to disintegrate. It goes away because you realize, hey, this is not who I am and this is not my fault. So I can really stop being so hard on myself. And that's when you start to heal, you see? That's when you start to heal. Because it's all about discovering what we truly are beyond all of that imposed trauma and that PTSD and that confusion and that chaos and that tick, 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 tick of the mind machine. We exist beyond that, and that is where we need to go. It's very difficult to put this into words because it has to be experienced to be understood. That awareness will come to us, of, hey, this was put into you. When you enter this realm, it enters you. You enter the realm and the realm enters you. You merge. So then you take on the realm and its poison as your identity. This is who you are. This is how you exist and this is how you deal with it. But that is not the truth. If somebody takes poison, they themselves are not poisonous, are they? They've just ingested poison, which can be purged out of their system. Once it's purged out of their system, that's it, finished. So that is what it's really all about on a subtle level. So be aware, people, that when you're lying in bed and you've had a very stressful day and your mind is going mad and haywire, that you can lie there and identify that as being something that is not of you. So let those mind chatters, just let them float by like clouds. This requires great focus and practice, and it takes ages to learn it. I'm learning to do it, and I'm finding it hard, but I'm gaining a little traction with it. Realizing that, this isn't who I am. This isn't what I am. This is the distraction. This is what it wants me to pay attention to. This is what it wants me to exist in. This is the prison. And I'm habituated to existing that way. Oh, how am I gonna do this? And tomorrow I have to go and I have to forgot to do this and and it goes on and on and on. And then I'll say no, because you know what? Most of it isn't even. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to worry about it. It all sorts itself out. It really fucking does. The more you let go, the more it just sorts itself out. It really just does. And it simplifies matters a great deal, I find. Things get easier that way. They just do. But if you really give it your attention, as in you really go into the trauma prison, the stress prison, the distraction prison, and you exist there and you allow yourself to exist there, then basically you're feeding it, you see, and that is exactly what it wants. A lot of us have been through hell. We have. There's no doubt about it. And it takes time. It really does. It takes such commitment and such focus and such persistence to allow for the healing to happen. We are not doing this alone. There is spirit, that element of love, the magic of love. And it does require us to gain knowledge of the world that we live in, to understand what it is and how the world outside lives also within us. But that doesn't mean we are of it, you see. We have ingested poison, but we are not poisonous, people, and we can do something about this very much. We all do that in our own individual way, but It is part of the thing that we came here to do. I'm convinced of that. Because to carry on immersing ourselves in it and believing it all to be true will just mean that we remain in prison, remain powerless. And we are not here for that reason. We are game changers. Whether we're here to pull the plug, whether we're here to do something else, I'm not really sure. I can't say for certain. So I'm not going to, because it would just be conjecture. But I can talk about the things I know do work. And to lie in bed after a very stressful, distractive day, and to be able to feel that love, that serenity, that peace within me that says, hey, you can let that go. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to think about it, because it will all sort itself out. It's happening because it wants to distract you. It wants to keep you trapped. But if you allow this force of love, which feels very strong, very powerful, yet very peaceful and very supportive, if you allow that force to surround you, to fill you, and you have to keep drawing your attention away from to but as long as you keep doing that, it starts to gain traction. And it works. It does work. But yeah, it's a case of being highly discerning as we awaken deeper and deeper and deeper, and see more and more and more that this world is mad, and that we are dealing with a vast array of beings that are highly malevolent and seek to stop us from doing what we came here to do, and just generally to create misery and chaos, and to destroy. I see it everywhere. They're building roads everywhere, cutting down trees everywhere. It's really going for it. And it's easy to give in to the fear and the despair, because the meme is, see what we can do, see how powerful we are, and you are nothing, look at you, we can totally stress you out and bend you over backwards. But I say to that, no you can't. I won't let you. I will stay in my center, and I will stay in my love, and I will love myself, and I have my own back, and I carry myself. I am not the trauma. I am not the PTSD. I am not the stress. I am not the fear. I am not the rage. I exist beyond all of that, and I am a being of love. I am a being of great power, and I came here to do something, and I'm doing it. I guess that's all I have to say today. I wish I was a little better at putting it into words. It's not easy to do, but I get many comments from people who are clearly deeply traumatized and who cannot see their way past that as yet. And to you, I have to say, I understand where you're at. I've been there. I still am to some extent. It will not always be this way, but it is up to you to start to utilize the power that lies within you inherently, and to see that you are not those things. You exist beyond it. You are more powerful than you feel. Okay?